Welcome to PDRA TV, and we've come up here to Michigan to meet up with one of our new associate sponsors, Dick Maskin from Dart Machinery. Dick, welcome aboard, man. You've been in this sport for a long, long time.
Yeah, thanks. I haven't seen you in a while, but yeah, old home week.
We used to spend a lot of great times together, man. We spent a good part of 6, 8 years together there doing some pro stock racing.
Yeah, back in the day. Ricky Smith and Tommy Martino and I don't know, maybe one or two others.
Had a lot of fun. I got to go back to the days. Ironically, at our last event of the season, we had an AMC car wind top dragster, dual turbocharged AMC car wind top dragster. But your experience with AMC cars go back into the early 70s, as I recall.
1971, we started building our first Gremlin. It was a little bit back by the factory and raced with Wally Booth as a team. And turns out Dave Tradishaw, who was Wally's crew chief at the time,
Still with you.
been my partner since 1997 in Dart. And
Right.
So it's drag racing. It's old home week.
Would you ever guess, how many years it was ago that you started this company up, that it would have taken off to what it is today? I mean, this thing's amazing.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think of it that way. I never considered where we were going. I just kept coming to work every day and doing what I do and what I love to do, and stopped every now and then and raced for a while, and got re-energized and learned a lot more.
Right.
Every time we'd stop and go racing for 5 years or 10 years, or last time about 15 years, we'd bring better and better products back to Dart.
You're part of the thing, and I'm not going to say you don't have great help, because you got superior help everywhere in all the buildings. There's not just one. There's a lot of them, but your main thing is you like using your head. You like the mechanical part and the how to make things go fast. Am I right about that?
Well, I like fixing things, okay? And we're not mad scientists here. We haven't recreated or designed any new engines. We've just taken old Detroit iron and kept working on it and working on it and working on it. When I do my PRI seminar every year, I start out by saying, hey guys, we're still working on 55 Chevys. And it really is a 55 Chevy. It's just we've enhanced it. We fixed the oiling. We fixed the decks. We fixed the heads. We fixed everything about it. And they just keep running a little better and a little better and a little better, year by year.
Take yourself back to those days, and then you kind of spin the wheel and move up to today to these LS projects and stuff like that. I mean, you are the leader in the industry, so to speak, on staying with the technology of today.
Well, take the LS for instance. When we started on that, I looked at it about some 2006 actually, and came home and decided that we had to do something about the block, that it just didn't fit what we knew how to do and how much power we were capable of making at the time. And the head was secondary. There was a lot of good ones out there, and they were easier to fix. And came home and worked on it and put it away. Just couldn't figure out how to do it. And looked again about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, and finally came to it. And it came to me what to do, and we kept working on it and designing it and drawing it and changing it and adapting it till we got what we call the LS Next. And it's been real successful. It does what we need it to do, and it's going to allow that engine platform to go a lot further.
It has really, really, really taken off big time.
Yeah, it has. It's starting to gain a lot of traction. We got it to the 60-foot mark. Now we got to get it to the 330, and we're working on it.
I had the fortune of announcing an LS event in Atlanta this year, and frankly, I'm just a little bit behind times on some things, because sort of like you, I've kind of got in and got back out, now doing a lot of the announcing and in the live feed TV and things like we're doing here today. But I was amazed at how far things have come along. It just, nothing is remotely close to the same.
No, it's a modern day small block Chevy. It's got a lot of good features built in the original design, but then it's got some features that need to be enhanced and fixed. The oiling system, the windage are a problem. Some of the design limitations that go in production engine are there that we've had to change and reinforce. And so we've taken a mixture of the new and the old, and we've kind of put them together, and now we've got the best of both worlds.
So when you guys first got Dart Machinery fired up in the earlier years, your primary project at the time was, correct me if I'm wrong, when I was thinking it was primarily cylinder heads.
Well, it actually was an exhaust port in a top fuel and funny car head.
Really?
That was our first product. It got brought to me. God had something to do with it. And all the work we'd done on the AMCs in that 10-year period, it all worked. Having to make our own heads back then, we knew how to make heads. Being able to have the contacts from the Pro Stock era with the guys that in all the car companies, Chrysler included, which is where we got the tooling to make the first head. Knowing how to file cores, knowing how to machine stuff, knowing the people who knew how to do it, we were able to pretty much change the whole world. As Lee Beard said in his article about the evolution of the fuel engine not long ago, that Dart brought the exhaust port to the surface, the twin plugs, the 55-degree valve seats, and the exhaust port that we designed in 1981 is still used today.
Let me ask you this question: How do you fast forward yourself from a 400 and some cubic inch AMC to a 500 cubic inch hemispherical head motor that way? I mean, how does that work out?
Well, the AMCs were basically 370s, and the 500-inch Hemi wasn't any different. They had a supercharged intake and a pathetic exhaust port, and we knew that. We had worked on that and worked on it and worked on it. So it was just a matter of putting the right shape port in the right place on the head and not taking into account that's got to fit in a Challenger with an exhaust manifold on it, that's going to fit in a fuel car, and what it's got to look like, and getting lucky and finding the foundry that had made the best aluminum heads the Chryslers had ever seen, and having a guy like Tom Hoover, father of the Hemi, being confident enough in me to let us use the tooling and eventually own it. It all came together at one time. It just, sometimes a crossword puzzle works and sometimes it doesn't.
So the old adage that it's all about air and fuel could not have come into play any more than that. Plenty of air, plenty of fuel, but no real way to get rid of it, and that's where that exhaust side of the thing come in at.
Yeah, all engines are the same. Nowadays, we put the O2 sensor in the exhaust pipe because we want to know what the fuel-air mixture is that went through the engine. Well, enough said about that. You got to have good exhaust ports. The intake port is more important once the good exhaust port exists, but until it exists, you're not going to see a benefit from a better intake port.
Wow. I would have never have known that. I would have had that thing backwards forever, as long as we've known each other. So we'll fast forward things a little bit from that point and get to the position where you decide, well, let's get into some real production stuff here. Let's start making some things. At any point in time, is that where the small block head come in at?
Well, the first head we made after the Hemi was the Pro Stock stuff, going back to our roots. The big blocks were pretty popular, and by then they were 500 inches. That had all changed. From the time I retired till the time it was time to make a big block head, IHRA was running mountain motor stuff at the time, which weren't real big, but they were bigger.
Right.
And we made our first done in a production mode in an aluminum aftermarket big block head that nobody had ever made before, but we rolled it over like the Pro Stock stuff was. We put better seats in it, better ports, better water jackets, better aluminum, all the things that a good head needs to survive in racing, and we still make that head today.
Really? So that was the dominator then, and obviously it was so good that you still continue to build it. You probably not something you see on modern day today pro stock cars, but utilized in a lot of other applications.
Yeah, it's used in the sportsman ranks now. And that's what it was primarily for, because it wasn't legal in pro stock because you had to have a factory part number. But Rear and them built mountain motors out of them, and and then we did a small block head, and we did the Buick V6 head for Buick. We did the Buick V8 head that was popular in Comp Eliminator, and we did a lot of things that nobody else did. We did them first, okay, and copying, I guess, is the most sincerest form of that flattery, and there's a lot of that stuff out there nowadays, and it comes from everywhere.
I say that from being in the custom paint business the same way. If a guy copies your paint job, to me, it's nothing but a compliment. In your situation, though, I mean, you've put the effort in, the time, the effort, everything it takes to make it all happen. And I agree with you on that. It is kind of frustrating from time to time. Let's move on from the 500-inch thing to where we ultimately get into more of the production line thing. What came next?
Well, Chrysler had come to me and wanted me to make a Hemi block. And I did all the research on how to do it and was very honest with the purchasing people that I couldn't afford to build the tooling out of my pocket, but if they would front me the money, that I knew I could do it. Well, everything I told them, they stole from me and went and did it themselves. But lo and behold, a deal came upon not too long after where Oldsmobile, like Buick and like Chevy and like Pontiac, had their own engine programs for their Cup cars. And they were fighting each other more than they were the off-brands. Right. Okay, they were fighting among each other. So Olds didn't have a good block, and Pontiac didn't have a good head. And Pontiac went to Brodex, and Olds came to us, and we could afford it then, and we built the tool, the Rocket Block, which, stands on its own 2 feet. We call it an Iron Eagle now because our deal was when you guys don't want to buy anymore, give me a couple years, and then I'll start selling them under a different name. So that was our first attempt at making blocks. And then I got involved with World Products, and we made the Merlin. Yep. And then when we broke up with World Products, we had the Dart Merlin and the Dart 2 heads, and all that stuff came out of the guys who work here's brains, and how to do it and what it had to look like. Yeah. But it was all based on the technology from 1980. Because that's all we knew. And when we went back racing in 1990, now all of a sudden the technology wagon starts rolling again. Right. And all the stuff we were doing to the pro stock engines, again, are bringing technology back in the door on Monday morning. Yeah. So that's when the product line really started to evolve, is in our second life in pro stock.
I could ask you a blue million questions, but in your mind, do you truly believe that win on Sunday, sell on Monday, in your case, was truly applicable?
Well, what applies was the fact that I was out there, and I could answer questions, and I could look at the guy's stuff, and I could help him fix it, and putting eyes on it, and seeing where the problems lied. I could come back here and set everybody in gear to go in the right direction for what the problems people were having. We've always built stuff for pent-up demand, and in this case, it was a very easy demand to identify because I saw it with my own eyes. Right. Okay, the pent-up demand part, you're kind of guessing a little bit. The LS thing was an easy guess. Yeah. Some of the Ford stuff was an easy guess, but back then, being there was important.
Absolutely. And all those brands have been real, real good to you ever since. I mean, I would think that, again, I'm thinking in my mind and maybe out of turn, but the Chevrolet brand primarily would have to be, in my mind, at least your best seller.
Oh, yeah, it definitely is. All the different versions of it. We have the SHP block, we have the Little M, we have the Iron Eagle, we have the aluminum versions, raised cams, tall deck, wide pan rails. That all came out of the Olds program. Everybody's now just figuring out that works. Yeah. and we did that. We did that in the '80s. So, what can I say? I mean, we got lucky. We're in the right places at the right time. We're involved with the right people. We got really good engine builders as customers. Okay, and that's where the feedback comes from, because you can't possibly build all these different combinations. You rely on them for information. And since I've been there and seen it and know the thing from the inside out, it's pretty darn easy to communicate with all the different engine builders, from the guys who build crate engines and short blocks to the guys who are building the 940-inch ProMod engines.
The other thing about you is that at some point in time, or at one point in time when you first started this thing, there were certain things that you had to farm out with regard to the foundry and those type things. But now, pretty much every bit of that stuff's totally in-house.
Well, we still don't own a foundry, and probably don't intend to anytime soon. We've got good suppliers all in the Midwest. We do all our own machining. We do all our own designing. The pattern maker, he doesn't work for us, but he works with us, and he does all the roughing on all the billet stuff. He does all the design work, and it's an amazing team of people that turn out this product every day.
Do you ever have any intention of going back to pro stock racing? Does it drive you just absolutely nuts from time to time? I mean, you got to miss it.
I don't miss it. I don't miss it. Having 2 full-time jobs for all those years and all those miles, whether it be in an airplane or a truck or a car, I mean, honest, I don't miss any of it, because I get to do the part I really love.
You got to miss some of the people, though.
Yeah, but I get to talk to them all the time, and I get to see them at least once or twice a year. So, we're all getting older, but hey, what are we going to do about it?
Let's bring this thing up to speed to 2014, really 2015 and beyond, where now, the billet blocks is a thing of the future, and the billet cylinder heads, and the days when, a mountain motor was 650 cubic inches, now they're over 900. Is that something you ever fathomed in your lifetime?
No, you got to live inside a 3-foot box, and you can't really worry about a whole lot outside of your box, because it doesn't affect you until somebody comes in your box and suggests it, and that's when you get involved in it. So I'm not a dreamer. I'm focused on today, okay, and the problems that today lend. And again, I like fixing things. And so every day is a new challenge, because something's always broke.
You're watching PDRA TV.